Greetings. I am Tom Merle. Welcome to the celebration. I know you could be anywhere. So the fact that you're here today sharing your gifts of your time and your presence and your energy, it means the world to me. You are valued, you are loved, you are appreciated just as you are. Janna is back, even though we never left. So part two. Any before we jump back in, of course, y'all go back and listen. Any thoughts you want to share before we turn off the camera?
No thoughts I want to share.
Okay. Well, this is what we look like, y'all. If any of the curious out there, it's what we look like.
Still wearing the fuchsia.
There we go. Still got my Bucks jersey sweatshirt on. We can go camera off then, and we'll just jump right back in.
Alrighty.
There's two spiritual things I've been thinking on. We don't have to get to both, but I'll share the first one. I had shared this with my amazing partner Adora before, when we were on a hike a couple days before the end of the year, and I was saying how, and I started to write about this in my poetry maybe like 12 years ago, how every generation has felt like surely these are the end of times. Like that is when you read things people wrote, they were like, we're all gonna die. This is it. This is the so it's kind of like a anxiety built into I think especially the people of the book. So like Jews, Muslims, Christians. I think this idea of like the end times is upon us is, I think, a big thing in our faith, and because a lot of people are either a Jew, Muslim, or a Christian, it's part of our collective. So I was thinking, like, what if you think of the timeline of let me add one piece to this self-reflection, just so we kind of have the pieces of the puzzle of what led to this. I was watching this excellent documentary. It's called Our Universe. It's narrated by Morgan Freeman. Please, everybody, watch it. It's amazing, 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 very spiritual. But one of the things that they shared in there is, from a science perspective, they actually know more or less when the earth itself will be destroyed. So I was like, okay, so even outside of like the spiritual, there is a timeline for when basically what would happen is the sun, like everything in our galaxy, and on Earth is fed by the sun. Everything we eat, everything that grows because of the sun. We're eating the molecular energy that feeds the nutrients. Okay. So then they say, but what's feeding the sun? And nothing is feeding the sun. Inside of the sun is things like nuclear fusion and all these different reactions that creates energy, right? It's what they tried to build bombs out of now. That's what we use that technology for. But the sun is doing that. But eventually the sun will run out of energy and it'll explode. And when it explodes, it will destroy this particular galaxy. So like scientifically, I was like, oh, why is this such a collective anxiety? We know in billions of years from now, eventually, like this creation will be destroyed, right? So when you think of though that we're like billions of years away from that happening, I was saying to Adora, a lot of times, like if we think of the universe as like my hands are together and then I open them and then I clap, right? If you think of that as like, let's personify existence, okay? That it's like my hands are together and then I pull them apart and now creativity has started, and then I get to a certain point and then the momentum stops going outward and now it starts going inward, and boom, the clapping is the end of everything. Like if I think of it symbolized like that, I feel like we're taught that we are seconds away from the final clap that ends it all. I feel like that's kind of like the collective anxiety that we have. What if I thought about life as in the hand clapping has only the tiniest of all the fractions moved away from its outward journey? Like it hasn't even started coming back in yet. Like it's barely even left the pulling away of the hands that signals the start of everything. Like, what if I viewed life from, we are just getting started barely, rather than we are almost done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to know how that sits with you.
That's heavy.
To think of life as like not just me, but all of creation is actually just getting started rather than about to be annihilated. What would that mean?
I think I agree with that. I feel like there's no way this is all about to end. I feel like there's just so much. I mean, it's almost like selfish to think that, the world is ending with this generation, or, we're going to be around to see this big event where the world ends. It's like, it's so much bigger than anything we can imagine. I think there are just natural. I feel like I saw this somewhere, and it may have been like a cartoon or something, but the idea that, dinosaurs, like, thank God that they're extinct. Could you imagine if we were roaming around and they were still dying? Everything has a natural kind of a beginning and an end. And, I do agree that we're just getting started and we may not be able to see what is next. But I do think just naturally with how we are evolving, there's just so much more. There's just so much more. It's even like too much to wrap my head around.
Okay. Well, we talked a lot about spiritual stuff in the last episode. We bridged it into this one. What else has been on your mind, or any questions you have that you want to drop into the space you'd like us to talk about? What's going on over by you?
I'm really in this kind of position of pivoting. That's really where my headspace is right now. Career wise, work wise, just like trying to figure out what's next. And I would love to kind of hear your thoughts on kind of purpose and discovering purpose. And as we are, life is ever evolving, we're ever changing. My husband and I were talking about, the gap between where you are and where you want to be next or where you want to go next, and that kind of empty space. What do you do with that space? How do you find your compass? How do you tap into purpose? I would love to know your thoughts on purpose, and specifically how you discover it, and what questions you ask yourself when doing that soul searching, and just what to think of that space between where you are and where you want to go.
So more spiritual questions.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. But it ties into career, because we're both looking to pivot in our career. And I think it's really like where, like where to go, like knowing the direction and knowing, I don't even know if I'm making sense, but we're in this, sense. In this, and I think a lot of people are kind of in a period of pivoting, especially, goodness, my LinkedIn page is like, everyone is like, oh, well, I was laid off. I was one of the 12,000. I was, I logged in and I couldn't access my account. I think all of us are just kind of going through it. And I think we're all just kind of staring at our lives, like wondering what's next.
So first of all, these are the conversations I love having. Like, I'm always trying to get people to come over and eat a good meal on my porch while we talk about these things. So I love it. It's like so many different places to go. I want to give something practical, and then I'll jump into the question of purpose and the space between intention and physically experiencing that intention. If you've ever heard someone be like, I built a business and then the .com bust happened, or the housing, like people who are in real estate and then the housing bubble burst. We're going to look back on this time period right now, and they will use some sort of language like that. So any sort of journaling or documentation or observations you can make now, when later on, when you've kind of figured out some things, you're going to want to come back to this time and be able to talk about what you went through. So like start writing down something that 10 years from now you can read and go, I totally forgot about that. And now I have the context on how to tell this story.
Wow.
You know, like when Will Smith was going through that, he was just, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying, wow. I was agreeing.
Like we talked about the Will Smith book, and a lot of those little moments only have context because we have decades of the timeline. But when some of that stuff was happening with Will, it was just life, and life oftentimes is just a series of trying to make you grow. So like hardcore emotional workouts. So this time period was crazy. One of the biggest ones is that entrepreneurs and anybody who had anything to do with some sort of tech, including all of us coaches, we don't think of ourselves as in the tech industry, but there would be no coaching industry without modern technology. If it was just like you coach at a coffee shop to people, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Especially those of us who teach each other how to make money. Like if you teach any sort of coach how to make any sort of money at all, you would not have enough people to meet you at a Starbucks to make. You wouldn't be able to scale that. So it's like we are technology. And the biggest one was this is all just a correction of COVID. This is what all is. So many of us started making, we talked about this last time, tons of money. This is what the Google layoffs are. This is what the Microsoft layoffs are. This is what the Airbnb layoffs. All of this is this huge, like building your business, trying to meet the demands of COVID. And then the Fed, everybody trying to, the war in Ukraine, just like all of this, like shrinking them. No more, like I just saw that they're going to cut off the food programs that people were getting from COVID.
Wow.
And it's hard to think what it feels like to still, I think for a lot of us who are listening to podcasts, to be like, once they cut off the COVID support for food, I don't know where I'm going to get my next meal from. So like, you know, but a lot of us, our businesses went out of business because of when the stimulus checks got cut off. So this is also my little political rant that we actually as Americans very much enjoy social safety nets. Even though we think we hate them. This is for my Midwest white guy friends out there that you think you hate the social safety nets, but we fucking love them. Okay.
And really what it is you don't like the type of people who are getting them and what you think about those people.
There you go. AKA white supremacy. So anyways, that's a big part of the emotional, like why so many people are needing to pivot. My big pivot this year, the other place I'm coming from is I just did my end of year P&L, like the final P&L, my final profit and loss I'll give to my tax person. So it was like, you know, forensically going through each month. I looked at every single expense I made ever this whole year. Every single dollar that came in, like I spent all of Sunday yesterday's like line. And I was like, wow. I thought that when I did that, I was going to be like, wow, my business was spinning plates, because that's what it felt like. It felt like a whole year of just spinning plates. And when I did the P&L, I was like, if I didn't know this business, I'd be like, damn, this is a solid business. And it was crazy because it's like, see, this is what is taught, that on paper, this is a successful business, but it was no fun to work in, at least as the owner of it. I hated it. I hated it. I hated the way it brought people together. Like there just seemed to be, it was so around like needing to make money quick.
Yeah.
Like for myself, for my clients, for the people my clients serve, like everybody just seemed to just have such a rush. Like I need to see an ROI in 30 days. Like this is, there's almost like a, not a desperation, but a like an anxiety, and it's like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's why I shut down the business. And I think the reason I shut it down the way I did, or shut down that offer, was I realized that the ultimate purpose is your inner purpose, and everything else should be in support to that, rather than my outer purpose will fulfill my inner purpose.
Wow. I'm taking notes. Like this is this is how good this is.
Well, go ahead. What are some things that brings up for you?
I mean, I'm in such a similar place where, I think part of my pivot and why it's so hard is because, similar to you, it's like, it's no longer serving me, my inner purpose. And it really is. I didn't even think about the connection between outer purpose and inner purpose, but I found myself also kind of, a lot of the clients that I serve are, solopreneurs who are, they want to build a brand and they want to, build their online presence, and, small businesses who are doing the same. And I've gotten to a place where I'm like, does this really matter? Because I say that because, I have clients who are just getting started and they have these big goals of, what growth looks like and where they want to be. And then I have other clients who are where the newer clients want to be, and they're still not happy. And so it's like, you have 1,000 followers and you're like, but I really want to get to 10,000. And then you get to 10,000 and you're looking at people who have 30,000. You're like, I really want to get to 30,000. And so, I'm dealing with clients who have grown their audience, and they're, huge, and they're, doing amazing things. And by any other measure of success, they are successful. But the goalpost continues to move, and people are increasingly not happy. They're never satisfied. And so I'm like, it's just, I feel like I'm perpetuating this like insatiable need for more and more and more and more, when there's proof and there's evidence that people will never be happy. And so I'm like, how can I get to a place? What do I need to do next so that we can really see some fulfillment in how we live our lives and how we run our business? And, does this business even serve me anymore? Where do I want to go next? Like, that's kind of where I am, of like, just where, what will serve my inner purpose?
It's tough as a business owner to start to ask those questions, because one thing we fear is, well, what I want to transition to, I'm not going to be able to make money enough to support me and my business next month. So do I drive Uber?
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, it's like, wow, from hashtag CEO to Uber driver. No, I'd rather let me
in this space.
Yep. Let me keep doing this thing that's making me miserable, just so it gives me cash flow, and then I'll eventually transition. And that thing that's making you miserable takes up so much time, you're never going to be able to pivot.
Tom, I feel seen. I feel like this is the first time that I feel seen. Like, this is exactly where I am. Like, and this is, in full transparency, a week ago, I started applying for full-time positions. Because I felt like I'm in running a business. I feel like I'm getting so far away from the things that I enjoy, the work that I love to do. And so I'm like, there had been this shame and almost embarrassment to say that, after 7 years of running my business full time, I don't think it serves me anymore. And I want something different. You know, my whole identity had been wrapped up into being an audacious entrepreneur. So what does it look like now? You know, how dare I, you know, start applying for positions or, you know, looking for employment? And it's like, I had to shed that shame and with the help of my therapist to be like, it's okay to say, oh, I'm just in a different place now. My priorities have changed. My interests and the things that bring me joy have changed. And I'm just pivoting. And there is no value judgment to that. It just is what it is. It's like, I am not feeling fulfilled in the work that I'm doing. And I would rather, you know, pivot or do, you know, have my business be, you know, something that I just do on the side where I can take projects that I really enjoy and then spend my days doing, you know, working in roles where I am able to operate in my zone of genius. And that was a really hard realization to come to. And I'm still kind of grappling with that. Yeah. But I mean, you put it, you know, you said it beautifully. It's like, you know, yeah, just where am I going next? Knowing that right here doesn't serve me. And I'd rather not be miserable for the sake of saying, oh yeah, I'm a bold and audacious entrepreneur. Well, I'm still an entrepreneur. I still started a business. I still have things that I want to do and projects that I will be able to launch. But understanding that the business that I have built and the model that I've built no longer speaks to what I want my days to look like and where I want my energy to go.
I appreciate you for sharing personally your inner journey like that, Janna.
Thank you for the space.
It was my fraying where I was like, I would rather, and this is no disrespect to people who are driving Uber. It is my ego, and it's the ego machine that I bought into of this idea around being an entrepreneur gives you extra worthiness. And it doesn't. It neither adds nor subtracts any worthiness to you. It's a ego journey. So but realizing my ego is neither added to nor diminished in whatever labor I do. It's how I do that labor. So like, I realize I could drive Uber and be way more at peace in my life and therefore attract better circumstances into my life because I just feel better than being this like, at a party, what do you do? I drive Uber. Oh, this guy's a loser. Let me go talk to someone else. What do you do? Oh, I run a Facebook and Instagram ad agency, and we manage at least $100,000 to $200,000 a month in ad spend. Oh, I think I can get something out of this guy. Let me talk to him a little longer. Here's my ego. What do you think?
Yeah. And it's like, it's bullshit. And I think that we have just gotten so tied and that we have wrapped our identity. I know I did. Into that. And it's like, but we're so much more. We are so much more than what we do and the business we build and how successful it is and how many employees we have. Like, we are so much more than that. If we can just put our ego aside and dare to figure out what that is.
There are so many marketing mechanisms that we all bought into that are marketing mechanisms. Here's a couple of them. Being your own boss is going to give you the time and freedom you've always wanted. That's like lie number one.
A big lie.
So for the most part, working for somebody else, now this is like, if you have a skill that allows you to negotiate. Okay. If you do with this, which that comes with privilege and it's all tied into systemic, all of those things, but you will, for the most part, have way more free time working for someone else.
Yeah.
I think thing number two that we do not take into consideration and most people are not prepared for is taxes. The amount of tax you pay working for yourself.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it is a sweet, sweet thing having somebody not only manage your taxes automatically, where it's just take it out of your check so you don't spend it.
Yes.
And they pay a part of it.
Yeah.
You can do a standardized deduction.
Yes. I told my business coach just last week, I said, I am exhausted with payroll and like sales and, eating what I kill. Like, I just want someone to write my check. I just want to have a season of my life, and it may not be forever. Just this next season, I just want ease. And that means doing work that I enjoy, getting a paycheck, and then living my life.
So if we can get practical, this is my recommendation for somebody who is trying to transition into part-time, full-time, some sort of like stable gig that's not their business.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if
let's go for it?
I want you to treat that interview like the person is a lead. So all the things you've been taught about how to close a high ticket offer, I want you to show up to the interview like that. Okay. So I want you to take control early and start doing all the psychological things that we've been taught to do when we're pitching. So in some instances, create almost like a mini webinar. Okay. Like show up to an interview. And I think you should do this in interview number 2. Be like, okay, I've put together a presentation on everything we've talked about, and have a little Canva slide deck. Mm-hmm. And like go through, like do stuff like that where you demonstrate, because one of the potential drawbacks you're going to find is you're most likely going to get an interview because of word of mouth, not job submission, because mm-hmm. it's unfortunate, but people don't look at work for yourself as legit as you've been in the ecosystem of working for somebody else.
Right.
So if you get your foot in the door, you just have to lead with, I've been my own boss. You're never going to find someone else like me. I'm more expensive and I want to create my own job description. That's like my suggestion, is try to get your foot in the door where they want to hire somebody entrepreneurial, and then take control of the interview process like you would if somebody booked a sales call on your calendar.
I love that. That's golden.
What are your thoughts?
I think that's awesome. And that's something that I've been, I haven't, like I said, I just started looking at what roles would feel good to me and things like that. But I worked with a recruiter to kind of pull my agency experience together, and create almost like I call it an impact portfolio. So it's like part resume style, but then also like showing the leadership and core values and things like that, almost like just like a pitch, just like I would a sales pitch. I think that's brilliant. And I think, I wasn't considering, I was more so looking at, how I'm approaching these applications, and just being in the market from the standpoint of like, these are the businesses that I've worked with, these are the projects that I've done, but really kind of leveraging the fact that you are a boss, mm-hmm. you own your, that is, having someone entrepreneurial is really a skill. Being entrepreneurial is a skill, and there's so much you bring to the table just by, owning and running your own business that I think we don't really think about when we're going into. I felt like I was leaving a lot. I left a lot on the cutting floor when it came to my experience as an entrepreneur, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. I think it's almost impossible to describe in a cover letter and resume.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like something you have to demonstrate and I'm not saying you, this is my suggestion. Like it's when you get the interview, especially interview number 2, I think that's when you can start to show like, I bet that no one else is going to show up to this interview with like a plan, like mm-hmm. because you're in their sales process. An interview is their sales process.
Yeah.
You want to get them in your sales process.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much.
And there is always the pitch, because if you're going to create your own job description, the one thing you have to consider is then saying, and I'm willing to work as an independent contractor. Mm-hmm. And you got to think like, if you really want to do that, but that's where it's like, because then they can go, all right, I can save 20%.
Yeah.
And I can fire you whenever I want. So I can be flexible. I can give you 3 months where we try your way. But if you're like, no, F that, I want to be on payroll. I want a job description. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking to like, what do they call that? Like an intrapreneur, entrepreneur within a company, then I think if that's like, like go through their website, take screenshots, find things about their business that they weren't even thinking about. And I think you can really demonstrate it through the questions you ask.
That is golden. Thank you for sharing that. That's helpful to me.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, I'm feeling a little vulnerability hangover, like I've been doing most of the talking.
No, but this is so needed. And, I like I said it before, and I just feel seen, and I feel like seen is just, it could be overused, but like, there's so much taboo around, being an entrepreneur. And then I think everyone has been on this, like, quit your job. And I was even like that. I mean, I started my podcast with this, helping people learn how to, monetize their passion so that they can, do what they love full time. But it's really like, you can do what you love full time at a full-time job. And so it's like, I'm not walking back things that I've said, but it's just kind of, my eyes have been open to a new perspective. And the things that you want in life will change as life goes on. Like, change is the one constant. And so it's like being open to the possibility of doing things completely different than you thought you would be doing them, being open to the possibility of pivoting, and just being open to saying, I've changed my mind. Like, that is powerful enough. I have changed my mind. And I think this conversation is confirmation for me that, I am not the first person to change my mind. I'm not the first person to decide that the life that I've built served me for a season, and now I'm building another life that will serve me in this season. There's no shame in that. And so I just thank you for that vulnerability and for just sharing all that, because it helped me as I make my own pivot into doing something different, something more fulfilling. And I can have someone else worry about taxes.
Yes. All right, folks, this is Tom and Janna jumping back in post-production here. I asked Chi-Chi, our brilliant editor, to pick a part in this episode where we would split it, and she decided to split it here. So that means you're going to hear the rest of this series that Janna and I did together next week. I don't know exactly all the things we're going to talk about because of where Chi-Chi's going to split it, but I can tell you this, you're going to get to hear about every time Janna and I get together, we like to talk about music. So we definitely saved that awesome conversation for the ending. Any thoughts coming up that you want to share in post-production in closing for this moment in time right here, Janna?
Let's see. We had such a great conversation. I am feeling really just enriched and fulfilled by your professional journey and this new journey that I am on, and kind of the new tools that I have for changing our mind and pivoting into full-time work and leveraging our strengths as entrepreneurs for whatever move we make next. I'm really feeling good about how I can leverage my strengths and my unique skill set and my unique experience to forge a new path.
I love that. I'll share one thing I'm grateful for from the conversation we have. It's either already happened or it will happen. We had started to talk about just like participating in the content creation machine of just, document your life and post it online. That's how you build your business. That's like a big advice thing that we all bought into. That I think had some truths in the early to middle between 2010, 2020s. And I was kind of like rallying against it. Like, I think that's bullshit, at least internally. And then I was thinking, but if you and I weren't both participating in that, we would have never become friends.
Very true.
Like you posting that article about Beyonce and me reading Medium and DMing you and being like, come on the pod. Like, so it kind of comes back to, we talk about someone here. It's not always the what you're doing, but how.
Yeah.
So that's an example.
So right.
Like, I'm grateful that I went through that time period because I have amazing friendships like yours. And I'm also grateful that you and I are now doing it. Like, we're now in our relationship in a way that's with the new intention that we have.
Yeah, that is a great point.
And so many other great points to come on the final installment of these wonderful conversations with Janna. So do stick around for that. And Janna, I just want to thank you. Oh, we need a plug because it's a new one. Where can the good folks out there get at you, Janna?
You can find me on Instagram at Janna M. Joyner, and tune in to my podcast, the Forever Fun Employed podcast. That's where I'll be talking about all my entrepreneurial and professional journeys and my lessons I learned along the way. And you can find me on Instagram to talk about it with me.
Boom. We here at The Celebration have a storytelling experience we'd love for you to be a part of. If you're interested, tomearl.me/DCM invite. My friends, be sure to tune in next week for the final one of this series. And as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.